Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Happiness Unchained. Um, life is a freaking roller coaster. Um, over the past month, I just life has just been like just weird and interesting, and I've learned a lot and emotional and all the things, right? So I did a little activity for myself today that really sparked and prompted me um, to want to record this podcast today. It is the end of the month, and I'm a big planner, right? So I like to make sure that I am set up for the month ahead, the quarter ahead, what have you, so that I have something to aim for, right? And that's really what I teach people. But this month has been really strange in the sense of, I started out, going towards my goals, having a plan for my day. And about 10 days or so in, I really just hit a wall. And I had to figure out, like, what is this about? So if you've ever felt like you are just going, 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 but like everything feels like a fight. Everything feels so hard to do and things aren't really flowing. That is a big indication that you need to take a step back and figure out what it is that's stopping you from being in the flow. And that is a huge, huge thing once you're able to recognize that in your life. It is, I mean, at least it was for me, because when I feel that way, I can stop myself from going completely into the state of burnout, because what you are experiencing is burnout. Um, so I really had to take a step back and say, what the heck is going on? And what is it that's making me feel this way so that I can readjust? And I think a lot of times, if especially if you're type A and like a go-getter and you're like an overachiever like myself, at times when you start on a task, you're like, I'm gonna finish this. I'm doing it. I started it. I'm not a quitter. I'm not gonna quit on this. I'm gonna finish it, even if it drives me into the ground. When that's a terrible mentality to have, especially if you're putting yourself first. So, what I want you to do first of all is recognize that if you need to pivot because something isn't working, it is not quitting, it is just getting on the right track. That would be like you're like, I'm going to drive from the East Coast to the West Coast and I'm going to jump on this road, but you realize, like, ooh, this is going to take me north, but you keep going just because you started on that road. And we really need to look at these things and situations to say, like, it's time to pivot so we can get back on track to where we want to go. But if we're constantly just doing things that we know in our heart of hearts that don't serve us, but we're just doing it because that's how we started off, like, we're doing ourselves and our mental health and our body, our mental health. Yeah, you already learned I can't talk by now, but we're doing ourselves and our mental health a disservice. And that's when we get into those states of burnout and we're stressed and we're anxious and we're depressed and we can't sleep and we're overeating and we're doing all of these things. And it's because we're not paying attention to what our mind and bodies are trying to tell us. And I've fought against it for so long. And yes, it still takes me a minute to realize, like, hey, something's going on, but I'm way better than I used to be. And what I want to share with you is, if you can get to a point to where you're aware enough to where you can pay attention and where your body's speaking to you, if you will, it's nice when you listen because there is something that's going on. But if we don't get to the point where we can learn to listen and understand what our mind and body is telling us, we're always going to go down that road of feeling and being burnt out and tired, and really just feel like we're swimming upstream. And for me, when I hit that point, I really stepped back and said, okay, what is it? And then I just noticed that like my eating was out of control. My insomnia had come, back full force. I was irritable. My mood was just up and down, and I really had found a place of happiness, right? So when that is disrupted, something is going on. So I took the time to take a step back, and I really just cleared my schedule, literally. Like, I had calls the following day. I cleared my whole schedule, told people, look, I have personal things that I need to take care of, which I did. That was myself. And I took my schedule down, and I literally just took time off. And I know, depending on whatever circumstances you're in, like, that may not be possible with your job to take, like, I took 2 weeks, but to take 2 weeks, or like, you need to make money, like, yes, I did little things that I needed to do to, like, keep my life up, but, like, networking and all of these things are good for business, but aren't necessarily, like, necessary. I just look, I'll be back in a couple weeks or whenever I feel like it, right? So, how I operate when I go through these moments of needing to reset and to take care of my self-care is the first day that I take time for myself, I do whatever I want. If that's eating crappy, if that's sleeping all day, if that's binge watching TV, if that's going for a drive, like, the list goes on and on. Literally whatever I feel like that day is what I do. The next day, it's time to get to work, because self-care a lot of times is misconstrued. And a lot of you, if you've worked with me or watch any of my other content, you know that I talk about self-care, that people think a lot of it is just fluffy stuff. And what I consider the fluffy stuff is like the feel good stuff, right? Massages, bubble baths, going to buy yourself something, etc. And yes, I truly believe that is also a part of your self-care, but there is a piece of self-care that we miss and that we don't want to do because it sucks and it's hard and we have to, like, deal with things. And I'm telling you right now, if you actually do the hard parts of self-care, life changes for you. I mean, it's very indescribable. It's just something you have to experience, but life gets so much better when you learn to deal with those things. And my second day, what I had to sit and think about was, why do you feel this way? It's sort of like a recalibration. And I think from that was that I was so stressed about money and business not going the way that I imagined it to go. And what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if, versus living in the moment. And I know that's very hard to do, especially when it comes to finances or you have responsibilities like taking care of a family and different things. But when you have those added things on your plate, like taking care of your family, that is more of a reason for you to need to live in the moment and enjoy that time with your family. I'm not saying just quit your job and, like, figure it out on the fly, but, like, also make sure that you're not so involved with your work that you're neglecting the one thing that you're working for. And for me, it was really like, you're stressed about all this stuff, but, like, you're not living in the moment. There was a time. Now, did I dream it up like this? No. But there was a time when I dreamed of completely working for myself and being free to make these choices and having the time to be able to take care of myself. And I'm very thankful for it, but I just got caught up in parts that, like, are hard or are unknown or that I didn't really plan to be this way. So you have to learn to navigate that, because, like, how you dream things up sometimes, like, comes with different things, especially in the growth process. So when I learned I was super stressed and whatnot, like, so what I did was took a look at my schedule, because I like to think that our self-care journey needs to happen every single day. It's gonna look different for everybody, but for me in this stage of my life and where I'm at, I probably spend about 2 hours, if not more, a day on self-care. And I wanted to sort of touch on a couple of those because I know that I mentioned the fluffy stuff and then the stuff we don't wanna do. And y'all are like, "Okay, like, what is that stuff?" But I'll get to that. And I looked at my schedule, and y'all, I was waking up, if you follow me on this challenge, I was waking up at 6 o'clock every day, going for a run by 6:30, coming in, doing my daily routines, being done by 8, and then literally from 8 until 10, 11 o'clock at night, I was working in some form or fashion without having a lot of time in between. And I caught myself probably like couple months ago where I started scheduling lunch breaks in because I'm like, "Oh, well, it'd be nice for you to have a little break for lunch, right?" But I wasn't leaving any room for anything. So that was one of the problems is that my schedule was too much. And I had sort of let that boundary down of saying no and making sure that I had space in my schedule to be able to breathe and reset and to take care of myself. And that was too much. So I learned I need to revamp my schedule. And then the second thing is when I start just like crazy binge eating, that means there is some sort of internal emotional thing or situation that I have yet to deal with. And this is one of the things that a lot of times we don't want to do is to deal with those issues that we've pushed down in our mind. And in this part of my journey, that's a lot of the self-growth is just dealing with the bullshit that has accumulated over the years that I've pressed down because I don't wanna deal with it because it's too painful or I just don't wanna feel those emotions or what have you. And if you've ever literally lived completely by yourself, like, this is a new stage for me living on my own, and you have nothing but yourself. Like, yes, you have your friends and your family you can go see, but when you come home at the end of the day, it's you with you. And sometimes those things are just gonna bubble up, and then that's when we start self-medicating or distracting ourselves when honestly, those things that are bubbling up, it is time to get those things out so that we can feel lighter and better to move forward towards those things that we actually want. So there's several things that came up for me that I really just had to process. And how I recommend processing those things, depending how deep and traumatic those things are, you might need therapy. And I don't want you to automatically throw up a wall and like, nope, that's not for me. Guys, it is 2024. Therapy is so useful just to even just get your thoughts out there. And nobody even has to know that you go if that's how you really feel about it. But honestly, who cares? The people who are judging you or will say something are probably the people who need to go the most. So don't worry about what they're on or what they're talking about if that's what you need, right? Don't put your self-care second because somebody feels some type of way about it. Well, how about you handle your own things before you worry about mine? That's kind of how I feel about that. But you can do that, or I journal a lot. In journaling, it sometimes feels like, at least for me, in the past, I would be like, you have to start with, "Dear diary, dot, 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 dot," whatever. Now it's just thoughts that come on the paper. Just start writing and things are gonna come up, and then you just sort of write through it, and then I promise you those thoughts will be carried with you for the next day, next week, next couple of weeks, but if you're continuously working on what's bubbling up, you'll come to the root of it, you'll process whatever emotion that is however you need to, and then you can move forward in such a, like, better and, like, peaceful way, and that's very huge. So I dealt with some of that, and then after the 2 weeks, it was like, "Okay, I need to make a new routine. My day needs to look a little bit different because, what I was doing before wasn't working." So my new schedule I love because I thrive sleeping in a little bit. Waking up at 6 was like, I did it. It was fine, but, like, oof, it was rough for me. So now I sleep in till a more natural state for me. When I wake up, I'm not grumpy, I'm not struggling to get out of bed, and I get up and I go for my run, and work out and read and do whatever it is that I need to do for the day for me. And then my work day starts around like 10. And that's perfect for me. And now, depending on what other little things I have to do throughout the day, it takes me about 3 or 4 hours to finish work and I'm done for the day. And then the rest of the day I can rest and recoup or go do something fun for me or catch up on rest or what have you, right? I have those choices at the end of the day. And this is like my second week back in the swing of things. And like it feels kind of hectic still because I'm like catching up on, rescheduling with people that I canceled on. If you hear that sound or you see me keep reaching, I have like an ADD moment. And like, those notebooks that have, I'm going to show you if you're watching these little tabby things where I tore a piece of paper off. I can't stand looking at it and I got distracted, but I'm gonna cover it up now. But now it's like kind of hectic because I'm following up with people and getting meetings in. But moving forward, I only have a certain amount of meetings per day and I stick with that. Not shoving my schedule full anymore. And then on top of that, it's like you feel like, okay, I'm making strides, like things feel good, I'm getting clients, all the things, and then like life throws something else at you. And this is like something really personal that happened to me on Friday. Like, I'm not going to get into details, but like shit hit the fan. And it's really one of those situations to where it is a tough space to be in, but like you have to choose yourself, guys. Like, sometimes you're not going to want to, or it's going to be super hard because people are going to be themselves and they're going to show their true colors. And if what they're doing affects your mood, it affects your peace, and it affects your energy, that person does not need to be in your circle. And the crazy part is that sometimes that is going to be family and very close friends or friends that you've had for like a lifetime. And when that happens, it sucks. But what you have to understand, if you're constantly feeling sad or mad or agitated or whatever the negative emotion is or that low vibrational emotion is, that person is not meant to be around you because that's doing nothing but dragging you down. And when it's family or people that we care about, it makes it so much harder. But at the same time, you can still love that person, care about that person, hope that they are well without being in their sphere all the time. And that is a decision that I had to make because I was so tired of like feeling a certain way. And when shit hit the fan, I literally said, you know what? Done. Completely done. And I'm not saying forever, but I'm saying for right now because what I'm working towards and my peace and my happiness and my health is so much more important than trying to drag someone along that you wish didn't make you feel that way, but you feel obligated because they're in your family. Like, I get it. People have done amazing things for you, but if they're acting out of pocket or making you feel some type of way that you don't like, it is time to make a decision in that moment. So, I say all that to say is that you're gonna go through these things and you're gonna process these emotions and you're gonna do all this hard stuff, and then life is gonna say, "Oh, great, you're past that and that test is done. Here's another thing." And you really just have to like be comfortable being uncomfortable and really making the decisions based on putting yourself first. And that is not a selfish thing unless you have some type of malintent behind it, because it literally is like the airplane example. They tell you to put your mask on before you help anyone else, because if you're passed out in your seat, you ain't helping nobody. And that's the same for in your life. So today I did a little activity. I think I alluded to this in the beginning, and it was a phenomenal thing. And I really just want to share like some thoughts that I got out of it, and hopefully outside of everything I told you will help. And I know today's episode's a little bit longer because I got on a soapbox, but I'll give you 3 things. Start and end your day with gratitude. If you're finding yourself in a space to where you're like, look, life is crazy. I'm in a low vibrational state, I'm depressed, I'm sad, and this and that, and everything's going wrong, and this and that. That's a mindset issue. But if you start and end your day with gratitude, you can't be like upset or mad or think about the lack that you have and be grateful at the same time. That is one of the biggest tips that I can give you that has helped me profoundly. The second thing is to always put yourself first and just remember when you're doing that, it's not always the fluffy stuff. Yes, that helps. That helps with that immediate dopamine release to make you feel happy, right? But there are other things that we need to do and like setting those boundaries. Like the shit's hard. Not denying that it is real fucking hard, but you got to do it and I promise you'll be so much better for it. And the other thing that I can tell you is make sure you find joy in the journey because sometimes life gets heavy. And some of the things that we're carrying around, we just need to put it down and remember to smile and to have a great time and not worry about, well, I can't go out and celebrate with my friends. Well, what can you do to celebrate? We don't always need money to do things or resources to do things, right? So if nothing else you took from this today, guys, if you feel like you're swimming upstream, take a step back, whether that's a day or two, continue like in this, listen to your body and your mind and see what's bubbling up for you and deal with that. Be grateful at the start and end of your day. Always put yourself first and find joy in the journey. So I hope that helps. I will see you on the next one.